Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and a special first impressions look at Ember and Blade. Action roguelikes have been a long interest for us on the channel, so when we're approached by Line Games to check out their take on this genre, it's been an easy fit. So while this video is a sponsored look, they've only really asked us to check out the early demo and talk about the experience, which is exactly the type of video we'd like to make anyway. So it's been an easy fit, and if you'd like to try the game yourself, you can do so through Steam Early Access at this moment. But the game's going to be in October's Next Fest with a new demo introducing Act 2, there's new angels, a new major boss and hideout, and you can wishlist the game now and play the demo during Next Fest, which runs from October 13th to the 20th. With that said, let's get into what this game is. Ember and Blade gave me exactly what I was imagining with an action roguelike. I dove in blind and progressed through the tutorial pretty quick, got comfortable with the mechanics and progression systems, and then started my first real runs. Bouncing between special events with arbitraries, mini-bosses, unlocking new powers and upgrading current ones, and eventually failing against the last mini-boss of my first level. This then caused me to land back in the hub, where I found new NPC conversations, new skills and abilities to unlock, a new weapon to try, relics and artifacts, and then a much stronger second run waiting for me after that with these unlocked. And as I made more progress, the classic concept of builds becomes available. Once I've unlocked a special evade attack, then I could think about powers that trigger after an evade and the synergy that's there as one example. New features become quickly revealed and add the depth to what is initially a simple experience, but then gets, a lot more going on. So it's a classic roguelike experience, but their take on it. So let's talk about that. For the story and setting, we play as the surprisingly chipper demon hunter Fenrix, who just so happens to be bound with temporary immortality thanks to a specific angel's pact. Said angel really doesn't seem to like poor Fenrix though, so good luck with that. But why and what are we even doing? Well, we're entering a seal, a world within a seal. It's this different realm where the archdemon Asmodeus has been sealed for a few hundred years. Before that, it was on a kind of world-destroying rampage until the character Ariella, hundreds of years ago, sealed him away. Fenrix enters that same fractured seal to meet Ariella herself, trapped here really too, in the Sanctuary of Oblivion. And then we venture down into the lands below to face hordes of demons and try and help with the fact that the seal is breaking apart. And so, pretty quick, a strange situation happens. There's a mysterious shade that looks kind of like a reverse Ariella. It's twisted, it's strange, it's got a lot of strange sentences to say, and suggests the only way we're going to learn more is by going deeper and deeper down, to progress further than we have before. Through this journey, we're joined by a strange cat companion, Lumi, who has a lot of helpful advice, and other characters like Kaliel, the guardian angel, a merchant cat you'll meet on runs called Shay, and all the many angels that are going to help give us powers as we go. Not only do they provide powers that you can choose between, but conversation, giving us clues and context to the history of this place, what's really going on based on what we've just seen and done. Obviously, those angel offerings play a key role in the power system of roguelike. They're the RNG offered powers that greatly change the playstyle from one run to the next. But a big part of the game, being a roguelike, is failing. Like the first time I went against that mini-boss, dealing with its attacks, I just couldn't avoid its missiles. So the next time, I made sure to pick up a few powers that gave me movement speed, and then I was able to actually evade them successfully. But mechanical stuff happens too. As you die, you'll unlock new powers, new items and setups for builds, along with the story progression itself. So when you get knocked down, there's actually a lot of benefit and reward that encourages you to go back in and try again. Let's talk about the three weapons that we currently have access to in this version of the game. We have the Great Sword, we have the Big Battle Hammer, and we have dual blades or dual swords. These work as our main weapon because with all of them you see that little sub-weapon, the tiny Spitfire, it's a crossbow. When you're playing, if you don't actually attack with the main weapon, he'll automatically pull that out and auto-fire. And there's a lot of perks to actually engaging with your sub-weapon if you get the merchant upgrades to really encourage that, and powers that are going to lean into a sub-build around that weapon. But for the main weapons, you have different attack patterns and purpose to them. So let's take a look at the sword at the training dummy. So our basic attack combo has really wide-reaching arcs, which is really nice for the AoE clear, even though the attack itself is pretty quick to be fair to it. The dash attack is a real quick sweep, and its special ability is this iframe attack that does this huge explosion at the end. As you can see, it has the cooldown there that comes back pretty quick. By comparison with the Big Battle Hammer, the attacks are a bit slower, but actually with bigger range to them. And it feels like the longer the combo goes on, that gets bigger and bigger, obviously with that massive slam at the end, so very good for that purpose. Its special attack is actually a channel as we spin around and then eventually slam down in a similar kind of attack to the sword special attack, but with a delay on it. So the timing on that one takes a bit of effort, but you actually have more output there because there's more to the attack. By comparison, the evade attack has a bit more to the animation, where it does this sweeping uppercut and spreads out that shockwave of earth attack. Lastly, we have my favorite weapon, which is the kind of dual blades. I really like these because they have this little attack at the end there that moves you forward. This is really good for moving around the area, cleaning packs, and moving towards the objective at the same time, where the other weapons are a little bit slower at that. The evade attack is also great for a nice evasive attack at the same time. I quite like this one for evade attack builds if you're focusing those powers. Its special attack is an extended period of iframes where you're spreading out this attack that you explode on a target. If I spin around the target like that, I'm able to generate quite a lot of attacks, but if you run through many demons at once, you can kind of cleave them out in one single attack. But I find it an incredibly useful iframe use against some of the bosses to deal with some of their attacks. Before long, you'll actually be able to use the arbitrary in the center to enchant, which allows you to start getting passive impacts as well as other new abilities. So for example, the first one I unlocked was the dash attack, which is obviously usable across all the weapons. And I noticed that these seem to unlock as I progress a level to a certain point. So as soon as you have this, you could kind of end the run early if you wanted to get some fast and early power and progress. Behind that are those passive increases, like Blessing of Might, the one that I focused initially, just straight up increasing the power of my attacks. These cost a special resource that you build up by progressing the runs and beating the bosses. So we can increase our blessing damage with another one, or go this way with haste. As enemies are near me, we start to get movement speed bursts. Before long, you unlock the flash counter, which is basically like a perfect evade counter. You land the roll right as you're about to be hit, and then get this ridiculous punish. It actually works on the flying bats, elites, as well as boss attacks. But this really changed the game for me and was how I actually beat the first major boss, as we'll talk about. The last area is of course just health increases. And I've just unlocked Regain, which is kind of like a rally mechanic. If you take some damage, you can quickly attack and recover health before too long passes, which is going to be incredible for sustain. There's quite a few sources of sustain, because at first, you have a very limited supply of it. Initially, you start with one artifact, which is R1 on a controller or RB. It's Lumi's power basically to heal you. It's like a heal over time for 5 seconds. Obviously coming in pretty clutch against some of the bosses when, sustain's quite a problem. But the fact is you only have 3 charges of this initially, so it's not a lot of sustain. Throughout a level then, you'll be killing enemies and elites and getting red health orbs to recover your health, and you can also buy some with the Merchant Shay when you actually encounter them. So it's a good idea to use this as little as possible. But before you know it, you get access to the artifacts. And when you start to earn different resources, you can unlock them. So taking a look at a few of them, we can see this is completely different to a heal button, letting me glide super fast and AoE cleaving as I do, setting up magical orbs in the ground that blow up like bombs under you, but does give you a way to heal yourself if you touch them. In the future, we can see more coming like Star Veil, generating an iframe shield for 7 seconds, seems pretty strong, the wing glider to fly around for 5 seconds, or generate a fence for 10 seconds. Which prevents you from going below 60 health, which is quite a good idea with one specific relic. The point is though, this pendant that gives you this reliable sustain is something you might swap out before you know it. So other sources of sustain from the skill tree as it were, seems pretty important. Looking at the 2 relics I have access to at the moment then, we have Hand of the Dead and Birthday Cake. So whichever one's actually equipped gives me a different passive benefit, like getting a massive attack bar increase when I'm below a certain threshold. So say that artifact I just looked at that prevents me from dying when I go low health. I could play around being at low health intentionally, getting a massive DPS increase, versus having a way to sustain through the run as I level up and get health whenever I do. So as you're going through a run, you're killing enemies, you're getting levels. Every time you level up, you're able to upgrade one of your current powers. The powers come from the angels, which are offered at different times, like when you're helping the arbitrary with like a mini goal. There's all kinds of these special Arbor mini challenges around the map that you absolutely want to do because you get a lot of XP and these powers unlocked. Things like defending a tree by standing in the circle and killing every enemy that pushes you, breaking all the stones that are sealing the tree, that kind of thing. Whenever an angel shows up to offer you power though, you get a bit of dialogue. Information about that angel the first time you meet them, sure, but important story and world context as you progress and encounter new things and actually make more progress yourself. So they're worth paying attention to. Each one has their own themed powers though. Fire and love based stuff, the heavy metal style bard with his attacks, there's the gambler. So each one has quite a few different power concepts. Dealing damage when it triggers every few seconds, encouraging main weapon use, sub-weapon use, perks that trigger after an evade attack, generate an area where there's a shield that blocks projectiles, or passive stuff like triggering attack speed and movement speed after doing enough attacks. So there's quite a lot of options, and as you level up, you get to upgrade these. So what happens when you upgrade them is they'll deal bigger hits, they'll have effects for longer, shorter cooldowns. So you go from the normal version to the purple version, which requires even more finding the same power to upgrade it to full levels. And then you hit the legendary version, which has a huge impact where those cooldowns, those damage numbers, they go ridiculously high and they get these special visuals too. Having an effective legendary upgraded power seemed to be the key to my successful runs. But you do have up to 10 slots of these powers, so having a pile of different ones doing a lot at once isn't bad either. Around the map then you can find quite a few things. A lot of enemies will be attacking you kind of always, and then if you get really into a flow of cleaning them out, an unbelievable amount of them can spawn at times, especially later in the run. As you progress though, you'll find those arbitrary events to help with, and you'll find mini-bosses on the way to the main one. Each time you defeat a mini-boss, you open up a portal to the flip side as it were, where you find that cat vendor. This one trades in a currency you get from killing the elites, and offers you a selection of, I think, 6 different things. Passive increases, regeneration options, encouraging specific playstyles too, kind of like the powers. So it's a good idea to keep track of your currency and try to stack up a good amount before you pop in there to buy some sort of upgrade, and one that hopefully synergizes with your playstyle of that run. Special enemies exist then all over the place, and there's quite a lot of variety of them with their own special attacks that you have to deal with. Each one of them seems to have a special attack that is reflected in the mini bosses you face later on, and they're worth great XP and again that currency for trading. You'll also find shrines that give you temporary different buffs, like invulnerability for a period, unbelievable attack speed, a multi-shot for the crossbow, instantly killing all the enemies around you. There's other kinds of enemies too, like the ambush bats. You'll hear a sound that warns you of this like flock of bats that flies by that will clean your health out if you get caught out by. You can perfect evade counter them though. There's also these thief enemies that try to steal your shards, your XP, so you gotta chase them down and kill them quick, but they are well worth it, giving you a massive amount of XP in exchange. Anyway, as you progress the level, you can track everything you're doing at the top right. We can see all the different arbitrary objectives on the side, as well as all the mini bosses and how many I've cleared, as well as the timer to keep you on track. Eventually, if the run's going well though, you will have to face the major boss of that map, which is going to be tough if you're not ready for it. The final boss has a ridiculous amount of health, and quite a few attacks that leave you exposed. Big, wide-reaching attacks that even catch you at range, and big slam leaps with a delay, where you're obviously meant to perfect evade. But sometimes they have explosions after, so you gotta be ready for that too. Using my special attack to iframe those was incredibly helpful, other than just literally skill checking it and perfect evading the attacks. Pressing into it and circling around it though did really help me avoid some of the melee attacks, but it does get harder when it gets low health. The thing that really changed the game for me and let me beat the first major boss was by looking at my powers and making a plan, like going for the gambling one I told you about. That one had a tiny % chance to spawn a bunch of shards to give me XP, and because I leveled it up with a hard focus, I reached the legendary level with it, turning it gold and basically letting me farm these mobs for a little while, giving me great XP, dealing great damage itself, and then if I got lucky, it would proc and give me all that extra XP. So by collecting that and then engaging with it for a little bit, I was able to shoot up the levels and then have way more resources to work against the final boss at the end, which I think is what pushed me over the edge. Maybe the best tip I can give you is taking a look at the observation diary after a run. It actually tells you, here's all the powers you had, but then what output they had individually, so you can very clearly see what had the highest impact in terms of your output. One consistent power kept coming up, one that triggered after a few attacks that gave me big movement and attack speed increases. So from looking at that, I could tell it's always a power I'd like to pick up and try to upgrade as soon as possible. And it helped me understand what was strong like initially. But yeah, I think that covers it for like all the core concepts of the game and all my thoughts about it. I think they definitely have something interesting on their hands here. And considering the fact that we're in the early days with the demo and the early access, from the story, it seems like there's going to be 5 major levels and depths to go through. And right now I've only dabbled with the first and second, as well as all the artifacts and relics to consider in the future, and progressing my skill tree to see what other kinds of attacks and playstyle changes it can offer. So if you'd like to take a look at the game yourself, it's available now on Steam Early Access. You can try the demo or get involved in the Early Access itself. But yeah, don't forget the game's going to be at October's Next Fest. There's going to be the new demo with Act 2 and all the new stuff. You can wishlist the game now and play the demo during Next Fest. So again, October 13th to the 20th. Thanks again to Lion Games for the opportunity to check out the game itself. But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.